My girlfriend is only with me because she can't be with her best friend. Jordan and I have been together for just over 2 years. We share a home and 2 animals. I know it's what all these blogs say, but up until this past weekend, I truly believed that our relationship was great, and I had every intention of proposing to her within the next year. Jordan is really kind and laid back, and generally we just get along great with each other on everything. We never argue. To be honest, I probably would have ended our relationship this weekend if things hadn't been going so well. However, while everything has really been so ideal, I'm not sure if I should act incorrectly because my feelings were harmed. Another significant character in this tale is Jordan's buddy Mark. Because they both grew up in the same small religious community, she has known Mark her entire life. Jordan is no longer a member of that religion. At the age of 19, she made the decision to quit the church and relocate to the state in where we currently reside. According to what I've been informed, Mark still practices the faith and seems to take it quite seriously. He currently works for the church in Jordan's hometown. In addition, aside from her parents, Mark is the only other member of the religious community that Jordan appears to be in contact with. I bring this up because I now believe it may be a warning sign. Because Mark was visiting our city and Jordan wanted us all to have dinner together, I got to meet him for the first time on Saturday. At this point, I want to be honest, I didn't really enjoy it when we first started dating, and I learned that Jordan had a guy for a best friend. This was especially true because it seemed like they spent a lot of time FaceTiming. I simply trusted Jordan that Mark was just a buddy though, and I didn't let it upset me because it was a childhood friend, and they didn't really see each other in person. Eventually, I moved over it. I wasn't at all envious or suspicious of Mark while we were heading out to supper. Given that I had been hearing about him for the past 2 years, I should have said that I was a little excited to finally meet him. However, it was Jordan and Mark's behavior at dinner that made me believe that their relationship was more than just best friends. It's so evident that these two were in love that I really don't know how to put it, other than to say that I've never seen anything like it. They would not stop touching one another. At times, they would even clasp hands in addition to continuously stroking each other's arms and shoulders. They laughed about inside jokes and totally ignored me during their chat. Whenever they laughed, they would make this face where their foreheads meet or they would clasp hands. It was actually worse than the touching since they were simply staring at one another in a way that I didn't feel comfortable with. It was just not how anyone would regard someone with whom they are ostensibly only friends. I have no doubt that every random person who happened to glance at our table assumed that Mark and Jordan were a relationship, and that I was either her brother or something else. Jordan was far too preoccupied with Mark and all the attention she was receiving from him to notice how awkward she was making things for me, so I felt like a third wheel the entire time. And that's actually not like Jordan at all. Often she's much more considerate and would know right away if I wasn't enjoying myself or if she was inadvertently being impolite by leaving someone out of the conversation. I felt as like I didn't know my fiancé at all when we were sitting there with her and Mark. It was as though he had transformed her into someone who didn't even give a damn that I was still alive. I finally asked Mark, "So are you into my girl, or what's going on here?" when Jordan got up to use the restroom. Mark, "Absolutely nothing is happening. That ship was long since in the past." Me, "What is meant by that? Have you two ever gone on a date?" Mark, "No, we didn't do that. We both realized that we would never be able to when she left the church, and we've come to terms with having each other as friends in our lives. Nothing else is happening at all." Me, "That gives the impression that her leaving the church is the only reason you two aren't together." Mark just shrugged his shoulders. Me, "So what would happen if she returned to the church? Would you wed her?" Mark, "You know she won't do it. As for what would happen if a bicycle had 6 tires, you might as well inquire." At that point, Mark asked Jordan, who had returned to the table, if she would still be married to him if she weren't a godless heathen. Jordan, "Did you two call your mother during my absence?" After that, she and Mark simply laughed about it and moved the conversation forward. Thus, based on their dinner, that conversation, and everything else I've covered in this post, I genuinely believe that Jordan and Mark are in love, not just best friends, and that their inability to compromise on their religious beliefs is the only thing keeping them apart. Jordan may believe, insofar as she's comfortable with that choice, that I will be content to be her backup plan, even though she's secretly hoping to be with Mark. That leads me to believe that I should just respect myself and end our relationship, since I shouldn't be in a relationship with someone who would prefer be with someone else. The issue I have, though, is that, aside from this one night, our relationship has been wonderful, and Jordan has always treated me with great respect. She has only ever behaved in this way once, while Mark was present in person. Usually, even when she speaks to him frequently, she never makes me feel this way. Therefore, on the one hand, I'm thinking if maybe it doesn't matter what Jordan feels for Mark because our relationship doesn't appear to be affected by it as long as he isn't around. Even if it appears like they have complex feelings for one another, Perhaps I just need to calm down and believe her again that they are simply friends. Or should I just give up? Update. Jordan and I spoke on Wednesday night. After we spoke, I made the decision to follow the most important piece of advice I had heard from everyone and tell Jordan that the way she had treated me over dinner with Mark had hurt my feelings. I would then wait to see where the conversation went. I don't want to try to recall precise lines and misquote them because it was a pretty long discussion, but these are the key points. Jordan and I had a conversation about some of the things I had written in the article. I told her that I felt left out by Mark and her, especially the way they were becoming too close to each other. Jordan first appeared shocked, as if she hadn't realized that she and Mark were touching so much. But after giving it some thought, she admitted that I was correct and offered an apology. She claimed that she didn't even consider it because Mark is typically very touchy with everyone, not just her, I inquired. But she wanted I had spoken out sooner because she didn't realize they were being so irritating. She was acting so differently around Mark and paying no attention to anything else, including how I was feeling, that it honestly just made me wonder which of us she cared about more or if she cared about him as more than just a friend. I said that was part of what bothered me. Normally, I thought she would have noticed something like that. More than once, Jordan expressed her regret and said that she understood why it may appear that way to me. She also claimed that she didn't mean to act in that way or give me that impression, but that she loved and cared for me more than anybody else. She said that because Mark was the only guy out with a couple, she was attempting to prevent him from feeling like the third wheel. However, it was clear that her attempt to prevent Mark from feeling like the third wheel backfired, and that she didn't want to feel that way either. After that, Jordan gave me a detailed explanation of her relationship with Mark. In essence, she said that while she freely acknowledges that she cares about him beyond just being a friend, she doesn't feel a love connection with him. The reason she usually calls him her best friend rather than just her buddy, she explained, is that she wouldn't use the expression "he's like my brother" for anyone else because she formerly had a real brother who passed away. Jordan claims that the primary reason she and Mark became so close was that she attempted suicide when she was 17, at which point everyone else in the community stopped speaking to her and Mark was the only one who continued. She claimed that he checked on her every day to make sure she was still alive, and that's when they developed the habit of talking on the phone a lot. He was her sole buddy for the next few years till she moved. Furthermore, it seems that at this time, Mark's parents assumed that he and Jordan were dating and made a big deal out of how they shouldn't be. For this reason, it appears that Mark's mother called Jordan a godless heathen throughout dinner. I questioned Jordan whether she believed that Mark might be in love with her even though she doesn't feel the same way. I did tell her that Mark essentially told me that he thought the two of them would be married if she had stayed in the church. She stated, "Definitely not." And while I don't think she was being dishonest, I do think she honestly believes that Mark isn't interested in her beyond friendship. In her assessment of the matter, she believes that she and Mark would have eventually been married if she had stayed in the church and never moved. However, she believes that this would have been primarily due to peer pressure and that it wouldn't necessarily have been a good thing. She believes that Mark was just being honest when he said that, and that it's possible that in his opinion he and Jordan would have made a nice couple. However, he's probably thinking that way because he's just presuming that she would be the ideal church wife in that case, so there's no reason why they couldn't work out as a couple. The major thing that transpired at the end of the talk was that Jordan informed me that Mark was going to pass through our city on his way home from his trip. She was going to extend an invitation to him to spend more time with the two of us, but she said she wouldn't ask him if she thought I would feel uncomfortable having him around. The fact that she brought up on her own that she wouldn't invite him to dinner with us again because I didn't like it seemed like a really good sign to me, because a lot of people were saying that if she didn't offer to cut contact with him or to cut down on contact with him, it meant that she valued him over me. I do see why she didn't offer to completely cut off their friendship based on everything else she stated, and I wouldn't expect her to given what she told me about what transpired when she was a teenager. Thus, I'm choosing to believe Jordan when she says that, despite their strange intimacy, it's because of the reasons she gave me, not because she's in love with him. Her prompt apology, rather than coming across as defensive, was commendable, and her explanation made sense to me. Though I'm not sure I can trust Jordan, I do think I can trust Mark. I won't be controlling and tell her that she can't talk to him or that she has to talk to him less. Instead, I'm going to watch and see if it seems like she's still talking to him as much as she used to, or if anything changes or sounds different. I want to see if talking to her about all of this makes her act in any way differently. Now that I've brought it up, I'm kind of thinking she might come to the realization on her own that Mark seems to like her more than just as a buddy. But I'm not sure. I don't believe I should keep worrying about it before it happens. But it's possible that everything just goes back to exactly how it was before, and I won't know if anything has changed until Mark is around again.